There's an alternative way that we could have solved this problem, and that is by mocking the third-party module that's interacting with geolocation. So if we look at our implementation here, we've got this use current position from React use geolocation. And if we say, hey, React use geolocation, we're not actually going to worry about you. We're going to tell Jest to use our own thing, and we can provide our own implementation of use current position that doesn't actually use the API that's not supported. Well, then that will work out just fine. So let's go ahead and make that happen. We'll say jest.mock react use geolocation. What this is going to do is Jest will look for all of the exports from React use geolocation, and any of those that are functions, it's going to create a Jest mock function for that automatically for us. With this, we're actually not going to need this deferred utility, so I'll get rid of that. We will still want this fake position, so we'll keep that around, but we're not going to need to mock this implementation anymore. So I'll get rid of that, but we will want to mock the use current position hook. So let's go ahead and import use current position from React use geolocation. And we will take that use current position. And because jest.mock is going to turn that into a mock function, we can call mock implementation, and we'll provide our own hook here. So here we'll make a custom hook called use mock current position. And in here, we're going to get our state from React use state. And we're going to return state at index 0, which is going to be the actual state value. And then for that state updater function, which is state at index 1, I'm going to create a variable here called set return value. And we're going to assign set return value to that state updater function. So then I can pass this use mock current position as my mock implementation of use current position. And then I render the location. This is going to return a position that is undefined because we haven't actually defined a value for our initial position state. And I'll just mention that we're initializing this as an array because what we return from this use current position is an array where we have the position and the error. And so that's what we're returning is an array, but we don't have a position yet. We render that, we should get that loading screen. And then we want to set the return value. Now this time it's not going to be asynchronous, so we can get rid of all of that. We're not going to be resolving anything. We're simply going to call set return value to an array that has a fake position. This will trigger a re-render, and now this position will be that fake position that we just set it to. And then the rest of this test should work out just fine. And again, this does need to be wrapped in act because we're calling a state updater function, and we just want to make sure that React flushes all of the side effects that are going to be triggered as a result of this state update before we continue with the rest of our test. So let's go ahead and save that, and our test is indeed passing. So in review, let's start with the implementation. When we render this location, it's going to call this use current position. And from the way things look here, we're going to be using use current position from React use geolocation. But that's not the case because we use jest.mock, which will rewrite all of our module imports to use a mocked version of React use geolocation, which means that use current position is going to be a jest mock function. So when use current position is called, it's actually going to be calling use mock current position, which is technically a hook. It's using React use state, but we're taking that state updater value and assigning it to something that we can call ourselves. And then it's returning the state value, which at the very beginning is just this empty array. So we get position is undefined, error is undefined, which will result in this spinner showing up. And that allows us to verify that the spinner is in the document. And then we want to trigger a state update from our test. So we're going to say, hey, act, I'm going to do some sort of action. And when I'm all done, I want you to flush all of the side effects. And the action that we take is to set the return value to this array that has our fake position. So that will trigger a re-render in any component that's using use current position. And this time, when we say state at position 0, it's going to be this array that has a fake position. So we come back to this location we call use current position, which is actually our use mock current position. This is going to give us our fake position, which will ultimately result in rendering this latitude and longitude. And we can make all of those assertions to ensure that our component is working properly. One other thing that I'll make note of here is that if we were using some other hook that took some arguments, then we would definitely want to make sure that we're calling this hook properly. And so after the render, we would say expect use current position to have been called with whatever that argument was. And I forgot what it was. Hold on. To have been called with args. And that allows us to ensure that we're using things properly. Now, for that to pass, I'll have to go ahead and save that. And now it's passing. One other thing that I'll make note of here is normally I like to assert how many times a certain function was called, but because we don't actually have a guarantee on how many times React is going to call our function components, that wouldn't be a good idea. And so we don't bother with that, especially since our function components should be idempotent, which means that it doesn't matter how many times they're called. We're just going to leave that assertion off for this specific scenario. So let's go ahead and clean that up, get rid of this args thing, and take a look at this. So anytime you have a module, whether it be third party or your own, and you don't want its code to actually run in the test environment, then you can use the Jest mock API to mock out that particular component, mock implementations of functions to make them do whatever you want them to do in your test environment, so that you can have a good testing experience. Just be careful when you do this because you are poking holes in reality, and that reduces the amount of confidence that your test can give you. But sometimes you just really have to mock things for practicality reasons. And so it's nice that Jest gives us such powerful APIs to do that.